That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well, that explains that, I suppose. The detail on someone being strangled is like a little too realistic. Kind of disturbing. The first one I feel like was more of a feminine thing. This one's more of a murderous thing of wanting to become something so big. Like, who the fuck's gonna hurt a whale, right? Ain't nothing hurting a whale, right? The size of it's insane. Very interesting directing with this. Yeah, she can read it to you in hell after Satan's had his way. And Satan don't use lube down there. Those three prongs go up one hole raw. It's weird how they're able to make certain scenes fucking beautiful, remain disturbing all at the same time, you know what I mean? Someone tells me the last episode of this is really just gonna make Yuki feel like a complete crash out beyond redemption. This is the first time we've seen something to that level of gore. It's interesting the identity issues people are having. She with her ghost, the whole whale thing. Oh, fuck. I thought she was still alive. Oh boy, those are some of the highlights. Of course, you want to catch the full live reactions to all these episodes. We don't do this weekly on YouTube anymore, so I haven't been around for a little bit, but we have been covering it every week over on Patreon if you're interested. But let's jump into it because this has been one of the most hyped up arcs this entire show, and we are basically at the finish line, and it is living up to the hype, if you ask me. Now, I personally believe this is the darkest, most mature, most, in a way, disgusting show of the season. And there's a few shows I'm watching that definitely have their maturity and their, ooh, like, damn, like, visually that's messing with me. But there is something about Shiboyugi that just, it hits different. And for the most part, they've avoided gore in the traditional sense, as stuff like this, it's cotton, right? Or something like that. Because during these events, which, you know, my assumption is it's basically like a bunch of rich people probably just paying for their type of amusement, and they censor the gore by making blood look like this. It doesn't change the fact that they are still gushing out blood. But it's so fascinating because it's taken 10 episodes to truly get to a point that I was like, damn, even with their censorship, and like I said, I don't say censorship as the anime is censoring a source material. I'm saying the world is censoring the gore just to make sure there's no misunderstandings. We finally have scenes like these where they're building up the fact that psychopaths can be involved in these games, because as we know with this show, half the people doing it are doing it for survivability, like whether it's they need money, whether they have nothing in their life, this is the only thing that they think they're good at, and then there's probably another half who just simply enjoy it. When I saw a scene like this where I could actually see their ribs, despite the blood all being censored, we can't see the organs. In a way, this actually feels more disturbing than if I was able to see it detailed like a Resident Evil scene, you know, seeing all the parts just leak out like this. Because you could, if we take a minute, right, this bottom, so her left, our right, is probably intestines. You can see the shape. This is probably stomach falling out with some more. Like, you can piece together what things are supposed to be here. But seeing her bones like that, I wasn't ready for it, man. It's a very fucked up environment, and I think what made the whole... Because, like, we're basically at the end, right? Like, we've had this Candlelight Woods, or whatever the hell it's called, hyped up for half this show. And for the past 3 episodes, I think it's been 3, we've been in it. And we have, like, 4-ish chapters left, because as we know, the number on screen corresponds to how many chapters in a story arc. And it's interesting, because, like, 7 or so of those chapters just like they went like that. They just said, oh, 37, 38, 39. I'm not like at that point, just fucking show me 39. Don't even bother showing me anything else, right? But watching the MC slowly but surely lose her mind, and I think what they did in terms of vocal distortion, reverb, echoes, and everything else to her VA as she continuously talks in third person as she's approaching the end. Because you start off with her having a decent connection with at least one of the characters, and then that character ends up brutally murdered by some sort of psychopath. Because what would cause someone's ribs to be exposed and all of this to happen? Initially, I was like, well, maybe a grenade, right? But no, the bones were solid. Like, there was no destruction as if she was involved in an explosion. So someone purposely went out of their way to kill. And it's interesting because all throughout this arc, you're seeing people kill people. Yeah, there's some leaky sides, headshots, whatever, but no one looks like they did. And I think that's what makes the build-up and execution to the end of this episode, or this latest episode, so interesting, because it really shows that someone purposely went out of their way to carve into a human like that to deliver what we just saw. And that's why this scene, I think, hits so hard, and why, I mean, I feel like whatever innocence our MC might have had building into this reveal is completely out the window, and why she just completely changes her tune. Because to just see someone sitting here so happy, like, welcome to the party, what the fuck, man? Like, seriously, what the actual fuck? But the thing about the show is that it's not just simply about watching characters crash out and watching their mentalities shift. That is a large part of these suicidal games that they all play, but it's also the way they write these scenes, and I think the way they describe, like, different characters wanting to shift into something else, whether it's a duck into a goose, or a bird, I forget the name of the bird into a whale, is such interesting subject matter, and I think there was two very different reasons for both of those characters. So for this character, she was basically looking at herself as this bird, which was very small, obviously, and she wanted desperately to become a whale. And I think the reason for this, at least my interpretation in terms of wanting to be a whale, is that if you really think of the size and scale of a whale, nothing touches a whale, right? Like, whales don't really have, from my understanding, a lot of predators in the wild other than maybe humans because of their size, right? Things move away. And I think that's why she desperately was like, I'm not going to be this bird, I'm going to be a whale, and everyone will run away from me, like wanting that power, right? And obviously we see it doesn't go the way she's hoping, but granted, the fact that she can easily kill her parents because her mentor taught her to do that, I ain't shedding a tear for this one not making it. But I think the one that's super interesting to me is watching this scene here, where you have a girl talking about how, like, hey, what if I don't grow up to be a goose and I stay as a duck forever? And I love the fact that the mom's just like pretty much saying, you can be who you want to be, don't worry about it, sort of a thing. And I thought it was really interesting, because I'm like, okay, they're clearly going for a route of, like, talking about how, like, you don't have to be the way society wants you to be. And I'm not totally convinced my interpretation is correct, but I think my interpretation is an interesting way to view this scene, and you know what? I'm gonna believe I'm right just because it makes me happy, so fuck you if you disagree. Not really, but that's how I'm gonna view it. Because when you see her in present and she has short hair, I almost look at it as, like, a way of, like, you know, society typically views, like, women needing to be very feminine and stuff, and her shorter hair and more masculine demeanor is her almost going against what society was forcing upon her, and she was just being unapologetically herself. That's what I mean about the whole animal symbolism in terms of two different characters in two very different ways. Such really interesting subject matter, and while this show is definitely edgy, and I don't use edgy as an insult, I always have to remind you, edge can be done well. In this case, edge is done well. If you play a Resident Evil game, Resident Evil is edgy. It's intentionally edgy, and it's well done because of it. But at the same time, the character writing is super interesting, watching different mentalities shatter as these games ruin whatever innocent they might have had at some point in time, whether it's their first game, whether it's their 20th, or whether it's their 100th, right? It's insane, because we've basically been told the entire reason the MC wants to get to 100 games, I think it is, there's nothing that you get there. It's just an accomplishment. And that's so fucked up to think about, the fact that everything she's putting herself through is just trying to give herself justification that her life has purpose, that she did something someone else can't do. But in order to get to that accomplishment, you have to do the most fucked up things imaginable. It's insane. Personally, I wouldn't say this arc is my favorite of the whole batch. I still think the bathhouse was probably my favorite, but I can't deny that overall, I feel like this arc did live up to the hype that not only the anime, but also source readers were leading me to believe. I'm loving it. I'm excited to see how it's all going to wrap up next week, as remember, this is an 11-episode anime. Granted, if you include the first episode, it was kind of 3 episodes in one, so I guess you could kind of call it a 13-episode anime in a way. It's a shame that the most disgusting, brutal show of the season got so slept on after one fucking episode, but I've been loving it every week. Like I said, though, at the beginning, full live reactions are over on Patreon. We don't talk about this one every single week, mainly because I've been getting tired. I gotta be honest. I just, like, not of the show, but just making 3 YouTube videos a day, 5 or 6 videos on Patreon a day, it catches up to you, right? So sometimes I just don't have the energy to do it, but I knew I needed to talk about it today, so I had to. I doubt this will even get 1,000 views. Let's be real, no one cares about this show anymore, but you can prove me wrong. Hopefully we can do one last video next week, though. So thoughts, leave a like, share your support, subscribe, ring that bell, and yes, Patreon for live reactions over there. And if you're already over there, I'll give you video shoutouts, because my patrons are why you can get these videos at all. Alright, so today we got Jay, Guest 28, Tatsumi Lover, Sought, Launed, and we also have Cecil Dark Lord, so I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and y'all have a good one.